Hello my friends, welcome back. I'll just preface this video by saying we've had road construction outside of our house for 3 weeks and it does not look like it's going to end anytime soon, but I just want to share this with you and pop my album away, so bear with the noise if you hear any. Let's get started. This is my completed 2023 Project Life album. I can't tell you how happy I am to have finally finished this album. It's the only album I haven't finished like pretty close to within the year's time frame, and I have to say the difference of doing the album at the time and having to go back and finish those weeks, you know, 6 months ago, made it remarkably difficult for me. So if you are working on Project Life years previous, I congratulate you on being able to look back at that time and remember things. So let's get started. This was my 2023 title page. I don't necessarily always do a title page, but I did do one in here. It was for the very specific reason that at the start of the year we knew we were getting Pearl, we just didn't have her yet, so I wanted a space to be able to fit her in when we finally did get her. So like most of these layouts have process videos here on my channel. This was one of them. It didn't have this little photo in here. I added that in later. And if I move this over so we can open them up, and on the back page here I wanted to do 1 month, like a photo of Pearl every month for the year, which worked out nicely because we only had her for 9 months of last year. So all the little photos on here, and it was so fun going back through them and watching how fast she grew. To be honest, it was crazy fast. Week 1 of 2023 didn't start that well. Hospital visit for me, so I did get a late start, starting on Project Life, and lots of this, I think probably the majority of this album are from stash kits or just stash supplies, or probably a lot of Studio Calico and Citrus Twist. So this was a stash week. Interesting color scheme, blue and red. I quite liked it. And then I think I made a few stash kits at the start of the year. See, again, I'm like having trouble even remembering, and I think this is another stash kit here. I was sort of determined to try to use, like, I say as much of my stash as I can, and in the end I still haven't used that much, if I'm honest. Like, there's still plenty to carry on with. Week 3 was a Citrus Twist week. Most of the Citrus Twist stuff this year kind of printables, and then adding like alphas and embellishments, bits and pieces from my stash. I really like that one, actually, very cute. This was another Citrus Twist week. Again, lots of printables and a few extra kind of embellishments added on. Back on my usual kind of pink and teal color scheme. I kind of want, it's one of those things that, like, when you find something that works for you, it just works for you. It makes things easier, so I don't try to recreate the wheel too often. Week 5 here, this was another, I'm gonna say stash kit, but I think I mostly used, I can't think what the collection is. It's a crepe paper collection. I think I did get it from Citrus Twist store anyway, but just something a little bit more kind of vintagey at this page. And week 6 was, I think, another stash kit, but there's lots of kind of Studio Calico cards in there. I really love them. They're such pretty kind of designs. And I did subscribe to the Documenter kit for a few months in 2023. And to be honest, I'm still going through those kits now. So I think I probably got about 6 months worth and then cancelled my subscription, and I'm still using up the kits that I got. I also like to get them when they have those kind of like mega sales, like those $10 kits. I got a few of those as well. So like I said, I'm sorted, plenty sorted for supplies carrying on. Week 7 was Citrus Twist Digitals, and again, like a few extra little embellishments. it took me a while, I guess, to kind of find my stride with the 9x12 after working on a 12x12. I do love how it works. It was definitely an adjustment, kind of picking and choosing what stories I'm going to tell, what photos I'm going to use. It was probably a really good practice for this year when I'm doing 6x8. I have stopped doing weekly project life, and I just kind of pick the stories that I want to tell monthly. I was hoping to get it all into one 6x8 album, but I've realized I'm kidding myself. So I've got a second album, so there will be 2 albums. So as far as like space saving goes, moving into a 6x8, I didn't save any space on the shelf. So we'll see how we go in 2025. Again, week 8, another stash kit, and week 9, Citrus Twist digitals. There are a lot of weeks like this, like it's really simple. It's really just cards, stamps. I don't think there's a couple of little like embellishments, some little die cuts, and a couple of puffy stickers, but that's it. And I kind of really liked how the smallest size of this album did mean that I kind of had to make things a little bit simpler. There wasn't as much room for kind of filler cards, although I say that, and week 10 has a lovely one here. This was actually a physical kit from Citrus Twist, an older one, I think one of the flea market finding kits, I think. And just keeping things simple I really enjoyed, so again that's something that I really have done again in 2024, just keeping things simple. It makes it a lot quicker as well. One of my favorite puns came from Shane. I was taking a photo of Shane playing PlayStation, saying how he was being a real couch potato, and then he ran away and got a potato, an actual potato, for me to take a photo of instead of him. I mean, it was a good compromise for someone who doesn't love having his photo taken. Another little stash kit using a bunch of crepe paper supplies as well. It's always fun trying to fit my like scrapbooking supplies into Project Life. They're not necessarily made for this size, so you do have to be a little bit choosy, but I really loved how that one turned out. Maybe my favorite week of the whole year. The week we got Little Pearl, so of course a completely Pearl themed page, and I have no problem with that. Little cutie came in, had me at meow, definitely. So this was just another stash kit with a huge photo enlargement, our first photo together. She was very camera shy. She still is, to be honest, but when she was a kitten, very camera shy, so it was very unusual to get a photo of us together. So Pearl's going to feature heavily now through the rest of the album. Week 14, this was a Rosie Studios collection. Something about sunshine, strawberries. I loved it because they had all these little strawberries, and it was very like summer themed. I just loved it, so pretty. And actually it worked really well into a Project Life album, because it did have these little like, I guess they're kind of journaling cards. They're like little like library cards, so they worked really well in a 3x4 pocket to add into my album. Back on my stash kit here, and again I think this was more crepe paper stuff. I think I have one of those like papery boxes of stuff, so it made it kind of easier because things were smaller. I did fold the paper in here and got that more kind of like vintage journaling vibe, I guess. Week 16 was then the week we got Little Willow, and again another cat themed week, this time with a kit from Studio Calico. Such a cutie. She looks so different now, I can't believe it. And then week 17 was again a little bit of a simpler week. It was traumatic, to be honest, trying to get these two to play nicely together. It took us a very long time. I think we were probably along 8 weeks before they could be in the same room together, so it was a little bit harder than what we had imagined. Luckily it was worth persisting because they are very good friends now. Week 18, this is another Citrus Twist week. very cat heavy here, and I guess because life got a little bit busier, my photo taking did slow down a little bit, and I'll be honest, like, that hasn't increased at all. Life has gotten slightly calmer now that the cats are a bit older, but I am very out of practice of taking a lot of photos, which on one hand does make putting together project life a little bit easier. There are less photos to choose from, and some weeks a little bit harder because how am I going to fill up all of these spots? So the 6x8 is really helping with that as well. Week 20 was a sad one. We said goodbye to my grandmother who passed away. It was a bittersweet week, I guess. Got to see a lot of my family that I haven't seen for a very long time as we said goodbye to her. So I just wanted to make something a little bit simpler than this, than, you know, usual. And a lot of the stories from this week went into a life crafted album instead of into my project life. Week 21 was a birthday week, so there's a whole lot of pink in here. I had a really rough birthday, having seen all of my family and all of the people. Of course, I immediately got super sick again. So I spent my birthday feeling a little bit under the weather, but these two were super cute and managed to sit nicely with me for an hour or so while I vegetated on the couch. This was the week that I was supposed to be doing the Pinkfresh Studio Crop and Create and Connect, sorry, and so it was a little bit sadder. I didn't manage to do a whole lot of that, and I'll be honest, I'm literally only digging into that Pinkfresh stash now to kind of work my way through it. So I did use some Pinkfresh stuff on this page as well, but none of those new collections that I got. Week 22 was a very simple one. Shane got COVID, so when I was sick, I didn't have COVID. The next week, Shane got COVID, and so I've actually managed to resist it. So it was a very quiet week because we spent literally zero time together. We were just, you know, keeping isolated, and it managed to work pretty well, but it was a very quiet week for both of us. Week 23, I think I did this over on my Patreon page. I really love how this worked. I used some of the Pinkfresh stamps and sort of did something a little bit different. I guess I wasn't working on the spread as like individual cards. I kind of worked on it as a whole layout. So lots of these little embellishments, jump pockets, and it's just a really fun kind of color scheme, I guess. Not a color scheme I would use a lot. I don't use a lot of red, but I kind of really liked how it worked out. Week 24, and these three snoozing on the couch. They are very good kittens when it comes to hanging out with us when we're feeling a little bit under the weather. So Shane was still recovering at this point, and they were very cute, all cozied up beside him. I think I had a little bit of an extra photos this week because I did do the enlargement here, and so that does, I love how the enlargement looks, but it does take away a lot of kind of valuable real estate when we're talking about small pages like this. So I just grabbed another page protector and just trimmed down the edge of it, so I had these like 3 extra 3x4 pockets. So I added 3 extra cards onto this week here just to tell a few extra stories. It was a little bit of a sad week for me with the anniversary of the death of one of my very dear friends. It took me a while to recover, so I just wanted to really focus on things I was thankful for this week. And then on the back of that, I added on to this week here, which is week 25. It's a bit weird that it kind of spans the two, but I guess it gave me the opportunity to add 2 of my larger 4x6 horizontal photos, which is, you know, rare. Some weeks I'm only getting 1, some weeks I'm getting none in the smaller format. That was one of those challenges that I had. We went on a really lovely kind of trip. When I say trip, I mean a day trip, very local. So I had a few extra photos that I wanted to put in there. Cute little photo of the kittens as well. I'm actually loving flipping back through this. I'll be honest, I haven't flipped through this album a lot this year, so flipping back through it now and getting to see these little kitty faces is so cute. More little kitty faces. Week 26, I think this was another citrus twist week. I guess when I look at this, I made a conscious effort to do a little bit more journaling in this album, which I guess is what made it harder towards the end when I sort of fell behind in project life. Those stories kind of stopped. So it's quite nice to come back to these earlier weeks and see that there is still quite a lot of storytelling going on there. Week 27 is another citrus twist week. These are kind of digital printables, and I did add a few like puffy stickers in there as well. A few of my favorite like foam alphas, they pop up all the time, and I love just adding those few extra kind of, I call them those real embellishments on top of digital cards. It just makes it feel a little bit more, I don't know, dimensional, less digital, less hybrid, and more kind of traditional. Week 28, I think again was another Patreon page using a mood board this time. So I had, these were my printables. I had done a whole bunch of freebies in 2023, digital freebies as well. So I was using my freebies and a stash kit that I had pulled together for the month to do that page. Love that color scheme. The pink, yellow and blue was very pretty to work with. And then week 29 was a Studio Calico week. I love the warm colors. They sort of all came from this photo here. There were a couple of warmer toned photos, and by the time we're at like week 29, we're like at the end of July, which is the very middle of winter here, and I was desperately needing some color, so this was a much needed warm toned week. Week 30 and 31, both Studio Calico weeks. This was my favorite kit. I can't remember the name of it. I am very near the end of it. This was probably the only kit that I've managed to really chunk through the majority of it. The cards, the colors, all the embellishments were just super cute. Really my colors. I really loved them. And then almost the complete opposite, total neutrals now. Again, Studio Calico. This was a different kit though, so I'm assuming that since we've like got all of these Studio Calico weeks in a row, that's probably when those kits arrived, my newer like $10 kits I think. So I was desperate to use some of them. I really love how this one's a little bit different to this one. Like this one of the things that I love about Project Life, you can kind of totally change up your style week on week. I still feel like it makes for a consistent album, but I get to use all sorts of different supplies. Week 33, and I had run out of page protectors, of this style of page protectors, and they hadn't come from scrapbook.com yet, so I ended up having to use something a little bit different. This was kind of different configuration. It did allow me to have the kind of bigger photo enlargement, and I do remember this was one of those weeks, like the 3 photos on here, literally the 3 photos I took that week, so it was a little bit difficult that I had this page protector. You'll see why it had this extra flap, because week 34 was one week that I did actually take a bunch of photos, and I was lucky really because I got to add a few extra ones in here. I think after I worked on week 33 with only 3 photos in it, I made a very concerted effort to take more photos. I'm not sure how long that lasted. I guess maybe that was the kick in the pants that I needed to kind of try and get a little bit more creative with my photo taking again. Week 35, I'm back on that really pretty Studio Calico kit that I loved so much with the acetate hearts that I struggled with, but I really love how that one turned out. It was super cute. And then week 36, I think was another Studio Calico one. It was kind of an odd color scheme this week. It's still not my favorite, like orange and green. I'm never that fond of, although that being said, I've got orange and green on here as well, and I really love this one. So this was a citrus twist kit, and I guess it really does depend on the types of orange and greens then, doesn't it? obviously talked for far too long because my camera battery died. Week 38 is another sort of big one. I went away for a weekend with my sister and nephew. So again, I had some extra photos. I've put in, again, just another cut down page protector. What I did do though was try to keep the, like the week photos versus my trip photos in separate places. So this was like home life and then this was trip, so I got to have all of my trip photos in one place. I didn't use the back of this insert for week 39. I kept it for this week because I wanted to tell all the kind of stories of my trip. Admittedly, this trip didn't get documented anywhere else except here, so that was why I wanted to put all of those stories in here. Week 39, Citrus Twist. We were heading into like October Halloween prep, so we've got some sort of Halloweeny pieces, photos like creeping in here, but I didn't necessarily want to use my Halloween supplies yet. This isn't actually October, it's the very start of October, I think. So I kept it kind of pinks and greens, I guess the green, but unusual for me. That was definitely a different kind of color scheme for me. And then we move into the October supplies, the Halloween weeks. I really love these. I love the colors. I love using my Halloween supplies. I do the same thing at Christmas time, using my Christmas supplies for Project Life. Generally, it's really easy because they're like out, they're around my desk, not necessarily on it, but you know, like I'm using them maybe not every day, but every few days. So the supplies are there and I get to use up a bit more of them. This one has a gorgeous shaker, a whole bunch of supplies actually that my friend sent me, and I just noticed that these alphas have fallen off. They are sitting on like this glitter doily, so they have not stuck on very well. I'm going to pull this card out and just run it through the sewing machine, I think, just to make sure it stays stuck on there. One more Halloween week here, and this was using some of my own printables and the last of my Halloweeny supplies before I put them away for the month. And then week 43 I was back on Citrus Twist again, so it was quite a shocking difference, I think. This one I did do over on Patreon, and so then I sort of started swapping and changing weeks, and so this was where those few videos that I've had on my channel this year, they kind of jumped weeks a little bit because I was just working on like some weeks during that week and some weeks not. So I ended up with a few gaps, a few holes, which did cause me a little bit of issues sometimes working out like which page protectors or which kind of configuration I needed to use. I did end up grabbing a notebook and kind of planning out the last probably 10 weeks of my project life, just to make sure that when I went back and did my photo printing, I was printing out the right size photos. Week 44 was another stash kit week. I went back into those stash kits that I made at the start of the year. And then back to my favorite Studio Calico week kit for week 45. Was definitely running out of stuff at this point, so I did swap over. We've got a couple of neutrals. See, this was another one. Week 46 was mid-November, I guess, but because I am always doing the 12 days of Craftmas over on my Patreon in December, I do start my December prep pretty early, so things get kind of chaotic in here. I did have all my Christmas supplies out at this point. I didn't want to use them though, so I had a Studio Calico kit. Same with this one. I loved how this one turned out. Again, different kind of color scheme, sort of pastels, neutrals, a little bit of color, but it was very, very pretty. I also loved not having the week title, and that was always, like, in my 11 years of project life, that's always been like a real rule, like having the week title on there. I realized I didn't need to. Again, I was probably, I'm 3 or 4 months into my 2024 6x8 album at this point when I'm doing this, so my rules relaxed a little bit. Doing the 6x8 really helped me kind of clarify what I wanted my spreads to look like, how much simpler I wanted them to be, and just removing some of the kind of superfluous rules that I've made for myself. Week 48 and 49 were a little bit December-y though, like we're actually like I guess technically into December. I did have my December supplies out, so this one's not really. It did come from a Studio Calico kit, and I was just kind of choosing things that weren't super Christmassy because my photos weren't Christmassy. I guess that's the thing, like all of my Christmas based photos in December do end up in my December daily album, and so then it kind of becomes a case of, well, what else do I put into Project Life? And it's really just whatever random photos don't end up in my December daily album. Although, to be fair, this one is in my December daily album, and I actually have no issue if photos go in more than one place. Nearly there, week 50 and 51, again a little bit Christmassy. I got some happy mail from my friend Lisa, so I used some of that in this spread, but other than that was just using Christmas supplies and trying to find a color scheme other than green and pink, which was my go-to. You saw this one just not that long ago, adding a little bit of yellow in there again, trying to tone back that green, red and pink color scheme as much as I can. And week 52, finally finished, the last week in 2023, and I am very relieved to have finally finished this album. I will say it did become a little bit of a slog at the end because I am effectively doing 2 albums at once, even though my 6x8 2024 process for Project Life is a whole lot more simple, a whole lot less strict, I guess. I'm not holding myself accountable to weekly spreads, which is definitely helping. I'm a few months behind, using air quotes. I think I'm only up to May, so I am a few months behind on that as well, and I'm not bothered. This year my rule has been to create when I want to create, not for any other reason, not to post content or keep to my own schedule, but just when I feel like being creative. And I guess that does mean that sometimes I am a little bit behind, but I definitely don't see it that way. Hey, thank you for sticking with me. Thank you for, if you've made it this far in the video, well done. And I will be back, I'm not sure when, shortly, with some of the 6x8 process for my 2024 album in a 6x8 album. Thanks for watching, my friends. I will see you again very soon. Bye.